You're gonna have to watch because I'm gonna need a drink.
What's up, Crash Nation? This is Jonathan Wood. This is going to be episode number 46 on the Crash It podcast. We thank everybody for listening, reaching out, subscribing. Thank you for just following us and giving us all the feedback. Today, we've got a treat. We've got the owner, operator, Derby car driver, Micah White of JM Derby Products, joining us live right here on the Crash It podcast. We thank you for coming on, Micah.
Glad to be here.
Just to give everybody a background on who Micah White is, we're just going to ask you how you got started with Demolition Derby.
I had a cousin, about 40 miles from where I live now, who was running, and there's a big rivalry at the Bowling Green Derby, the Pike County, Missouri Fair Derby. And he was needing some more people on his side. And there's 4 or 5 of us that actually got into derbying for that one show. And I loved it. It was great. So I stuck with it, just kept going with it. That was back about 22, 23 years ago.
22 years ago, the sport has changed, hasn't it? Over the last 22 years.
Yeah, I'll tell you. I'll tell you a little story. I got out of it for 11 years, and I built a race car. Long story short, the better half said she would never get back in it again and get rid of it, and we decided to trade the race car for derby stuff. I traded for a bunch of derby stuff, a nice built motor, some Punisher trannies, some 6 or 7 cars, got a whole bunch of stuff, and boy, I was really going to hit it hot and heavy. And then I learned that everything in 11 years had changed. Everything. I didn't know what pressuring in a car meant. We didn't do that back then. We just had learned how to tilt a new style when I was getting out of it. So needless to say, after a couple broken ears off of motors and a couple trash cars in 3 hits, I learned actually what pressure in a car meant.
Yeah. And to everybody that's tuning in on the YouTube live stream, I just wanted to say the chat's open. If you have any questions for Micah, be sure to drop them in the chat and I'll reach out and answer them on here for you. I've got to say, awesome background. We were talking before he came on. He's like, man, I had to get the cars in the background. And so you got some plans to run this year somewhere?
I got plans to run a few places. Yeah, I'll show you a little picture. We got a street stock there. And then we got a suicide there. It's getting ready to go to paint tomorrow. And then over here, I got a pretty big shop. Over here, we got, well, let me move. It's behind a whole bunch of junk, but over here we have a Lucky Sevens car. So it's an old iron Buick.
Yeah, so everyone that's listening on Spotify, he just gave a little tour around the shop of the cars he's been working on. And so, as I mentioned before we got into Micah White, the Derby car driver, let's just talk about that for just a little bit more before we move on to the business side of JM Derby Products. So when you're building, do you have a favorite part of the build process that you like?
Yeah, when it's done and you're painting it. That's my favorite part, when you're painting it. No, really, I don't mind it. Heat rear ends. I love welding. You can ask a lot of local guys around here. I love to weld. It's every bit of it is its own process. But what's crazy, and I tell a lot of guys this, when I derbied, you had a certain way you build every car, and you just went that way. But now it's weird because I got to relearn how to build cars to compete in today's era. Because again, like you said, it's totally different. And I listened to a podcast a while back, and Alan Brown from, we'll call it Hannibal, was on there, and he said, back when we used to build our own parts. If we wanted a part, we build it. Couldn't get online and go to NLR or Jeffy's Fab Farmer or me and just buy the part. You had to build it. So it's totally different today because you can take the average guy and they can buy the parts, and they're probably going to beat you unless you know that them parts are there.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I believe that was the Hard Nosed Derby podcast that had him on there.
Yeah.
They do a great job over there. We listen every week to their podcast as well. And yeah, it's crazy. Just like 10 years ago, everyone would build their own parts. And now we have vendors who can supply the same parts, even, to the top level. It's a top tier part, I would call it. Not only is it going to get the job done, but it might be where you can make it where you can suit yourself inside the car. Like you can relocate it to what fits you and the driver. And so we'll get back to that. But JM Derby products, let's talk about that for just a little bit. So how did you come about deciding to build parts other people?
I have the luxuries of having a job. I get to work from home. So between boredom and being in my mind, I got a lot of time. And when I got back into derbying, it seemed like I was on NLR's website every day ordering parts. And it was Monday through Friday, I had parts being delivered almost every day. Because again, everything in the derby world had changed since 2009 when I quit derbying. I had to catch up. I had to try to catch up to times. And I got tired of spending the money. And I'm like, well, I could build that. I mean, if I had the means, I could build it. Well, I could build that. And I just went hunting one day and I told my wife, I said, I'm going to build a plasma table and start building derby parts. She told me I was an idiot. And here we are. I bought a plasma table and we're building derby parts.
Yeah, so for the listeners or for anyone that's watching this podcast, JM Derby Products, I believe you guys are out of Paris, Missouri. Is that correct?
Yeah.
We're going to kind of roll through some of the stuff that you guys build. I took some pictures off your JM Derby Products Facebook page to kind of show the viewers at home kind of what you guys are building. And we're going to roll through this stuff and just kind of describe some of the stuff for the people that are listening on Spotify or the ones that are watching on YouTube. So right here, I believe this is one of your guys' switch boxes that you guys offer.
Yeah, and that's kind of grown a little bit in the last couple of weeks. We're building 3-panel switch boxes, so we just call that like a stock switch box. And then we're doing a 5 switch for like street stock. And we've actually extended that to where now we're offering a full wiring kit. So you can get every wire to hook up to run a derby motor through the switch box.
Yeah, that's awesome. So them switch boxes, I was kind of reading on your Facebook page, it says it's just like a failed. It says it's almost bulletproof, but don't shoot it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I love that.
So we put rubber grommets in everything. You can see our rails that we have there. We use all 50 amp toggles. What we've learned, you know, everybody in the derby world has learned is a lot of times when you have a electrical failure, it's in the toggle switch because they're 20 amp toggle switches and they burn out. So I said, you know what, we need to do 50 amp all the way through, just not the ignition, but every one of them. Just make it where we guarantee we got power. So we put 50 amp toggles, 50 amp master in the whole thing. We run fuel, or we run electric rails. So you got individual wiring. But then what we've started doing, I did on the suicide you've seen behind me, I put quick disconnects on every one of them. So now if you're switching out your motor, instead of rolling up all your wiring and putting it, you know, on your motor or cutting it apart and resplicing it, now you just disconnect it. Your switch box is right there. Build another car, put your switch box in, it all connects right back together and you're good to go. In 5 minutes, you can wire up a whole new car.
Oh, wow. That's a game changer if you're someone that's real into the sport, you know, that's going to go from one car to the next, especially our local guys here at Lucky Sevens Promotions that run the Lucky Seven shows. They might go through a couple cars a year. And, you know, some of these guys are branching out the bigger shows. They're running their same setups in their bigger shows that they're going to put in their Lucky Sevens cars. That would help them quite a bit in that aspect, I would believe.
So one thing of the few far and in between can tell you about me is when I go all out, and I go 10 miles further than I ever should. So with that being said, I just got back into this in August of last year. I've got 6 motors now. The problem I was running into was if I wanted to switch a motor or build another car, then I was rewiring the whole thing the whole time. And I thought there's got to be an easier way to do this. And I thought, you know what, there is. Quick disconnects. You wire every motor one time, and it doesn't matter what motor you run, your switch box is going to interchange. From car to motor, it doesn't matter. If you blow a motor on Friday and you want to run Saturday and you're going to do a 4 a.m. motor swap, you don't have to change it out and rewire it. 2 minutes, it's all connected back together and you fire it up.
So let me ask you this, on your switch boxes, if someone buys this from you, how's it? So do they hook all the internals up that's seen on the picture, or do you already have that ran? Or
it's all ran. When it comes out of the box, there's a label on it. We put a label on every individual one. That one will say like fuel pump, ignition, and then you have auxiliary, how many ever auxiliaries you want. So you can run the tranny cooler. I personally run electric fans. So I run a tranny cooler, I run a radiator fan, I run 2 fuel pumps and 2 ignitions. So I run a 6 switch, and you can do it however you want. If now a lot of people will call me and they'll say, hey, this is what I'm running. So then we'll label the wiring just for that. And then all you have to do on your initial setup is when you run your wiring off your fuel pump or your tranny cooler or whatever, just put the quick disconnects and I'll send them with you, and then you're good to go from there on out.
Wow. That seems awesome. I mean, you probably market that to our figure 8 guys too.
Oh yeah. So when we do the full harness, which is a 2-watt ground, a 2-watt, and 2 2-watt batteries. So you have the one that runs off your starter to your battery cable, and then you have the one that runs out of your switch box, which you can see on there is the red one. So we don't power it with a 16 gauge or 12 gauge wire. We power it with an actual battery cable just to make sure that we have everything there. We call it a simplified harness. We don't have the capabilities now of hooking up the harness for the compacts, but by all means, if you could get us the harness for the car that you're running, we could definitely wire it in for you.
Yeah. Hear that, figure eight guys? I know we have a few that they have a switch box, and we had Kyle Wardenhausen on here, I don't know, a couple weeks ago. And I remember that was one of his big investments that he made into, he always talked about the switch box that he bought, and how much easier it made things for him and how much more he trusted just having everything on there. So that's awesome. Let's see what else you got here. We got lower cradles.
From coming from somebody that runs Blizzard Bash mod compacts and will not run a switch box, you're selling me on it. I think I'm gonna buy one of these and try it out. I've always been nervous about those switches going out, but I think I'm gonna have to get one of these and try it out.
And I'll tell you, a conversation I have with a lot of guys is, you go to the guys who used to derby back in the 80s, early 90s, they got 2 wires duct taped to their cage and they tap them together, it starts up the car and they go. And I'm not saying that don't work, but technology, the build process, everything is getting more advanced. And it's just the way that the sport's going.
Yeah, Joshua, he cracks me up every year. He's got all these wires down here on his dash, and he's twisted them all together, his dash bar. It's because of Dad. That's why. He won't say it on here. He probably will, but I know that's what it is.
And the thing is,
I've had one of those 20 amp switches fail, and it cost me, I think I got second place that derby or third place. And, just $100 investment into a switch box, or, an extra $100 or $200. It's a difference between, a third place trophy and a first place trophy. It's definitely worth it. I would say if you got the right equipment. So, and it sounds like it is. Yeah.
Yeah, and to simplify that a little bit more, the difference between the $400 or $500 in first place to third place or first place to second place was $7 in a toggle switch. It's about $7 more to go to 50 amp than 20 amp. So why would you not overdo it and not have that failure?
So you make lower cradles? Is that? I think that's what
we
I'm
make
looking at.
So that's some LS lower cradles. That's lower cradle, pulley protector, and a front plate. We make full cradles, lower cradles. We make them with or without the pulley protectors. It's just, whatever you're wanting. So the one part of the shop I didn't show you, I have a full paint booth to paint cars in. So the one nice thing that people like is when they order a cradle, I say, well, what color do you want it? Oh, I don't know, black. Well, I have like 4,900 different colors. You can have any color you want. So don't just settle on black if you want something kind of cool, and we can paint it for you.
That's awesome. So you got a paint booth? Man, that's awesome.
Well, I got a 150-foot long shop. I can do an awful lot in here.
So do you paint everything too?
Oh, absolutely. Yep.
So you're a one-man show. Do you have anyone that helps you out with all this stuff, or you just do it all yourself?
I'm a one-man band.
Yeah, it looks like you make, was that a rear end brace or?
That's a full rear end brace with axle savers for the GM 14 bolts, which while we're on that picture, we're going to be giving one of them away on June 10th in Eldon.
So you hear that, everybody? June 10th, Eldon, Missouri, for the street stock class, I believe. Mad Dog, is that what that goes to?
Yeah. Yep. That's the Mad Dog Award.
And man, that's for everybody that's not, maybe familiar with our local scene here, demolition derbies or just demolition derbies in general. You're still trying to get into it. You ought to hop on the YouTube page here at Crashed It and check out these parts. A lot of time and effort goes into these. And what's one of them run somebody? Like if they were to order it from me.
So I sell them as a kit. I tack them all together. And then what you'll do is you'll actually pull the front brace off, which is in the picture there. Yes, that. You'll wrap it around and then you'll just weld everything solid. You'll spend the next 5.5 hours welding. I sell them at $650. Now it goes up from there to about $2,500. So I also sell the rear end. I can sell you a complete rear end with the, there you go, right there. So them are some that went down to, those went to Arkansas. So we can do them from a weld together kit all the way to done. I have a stack of GM 14 bolts I've been buying and stockpiling them. And then when somebody wants one, then I'll build it complete.
Well, that's impressive. And that I've just got to say, man, that's a awesome thing. Sponsoring one of these rear end braces. That's a big jump for what, it's awesome that someone's gonna do that for our local guys here, and for whoever shows up to the derby and puts on a show. That's gonna be awesome for someone to take home. And I mean, you seen it on that picture I had up here earlier. Let's see here. Whoop, I got a little crazy there. But yeah, he's just got it tacked together there, and like you said, you'll just pop that front end off. That's awesome. It ain't too hard
No.
to do. You got all the effort in this part.
Yeah, and while we're on that, Jonathan, guys, this is kind of the partnership that we've been talking about with Lucky Sevens and JM Derby Products, of him just stepping up and getting behind our super stock class. And he's giving away this racing kit. I think he said it was $650 or $700. So that's one of the bigger Mad Dog prizes that we've had all last year. He plans to do that at every super stock show. So that's, and these, it's not some, backyard builder here. These parts, they run on national level cars. They're nice. I mean, they're put together well. He puts the time and effort into them, and they're built to compete. So, I mean, these parts will help someone down the road win, and you're gonna have to drive for them. So, we talked last weekend about with Ben Porter. He was on about how the stock class that we call stock is kind of phasing out. It's going to more of the super stock class. And then it's also going back down to the bone stock class. So that stock class is kind of shifting away. And with this partnership, I think a lot of guys that are running that stock class, if they go out there and Mad Dog it, they're going to have the parts to compete in the super stock class.
Yeah,
Well,
we got some drivers that aren't scared to do that. And man, this is just all the more incentive to do it. I mean, makes you want to jump in a car and just go into it all night long. It's gonna be a good show. I can't wait.
I hope so.
So while we're on June 10th, Micah, I think we were talking before we came on. We put the go button. Believe that you said you're going to be vending at the Lucky Seven shows as well. Is that super stock shows only?
It's going to. I started writing down a schedule last weekend because there's so many shows. I know I'll be at every single street stock show for sure. And yes, I will bring some parts with me. I'll probably bring half a truckload of parts. I'll bring some bumpers. I'll bring some a rear end brace or two if guys are wanting them. I'll bring some hood plates. Bring a switch box or two, and they'll be available, before the Derby, if anybody's needing anything. And they can obviously pre-order, and then I'll deliver them, at whichever show. I'm going to try to hit a lot of your derbies as long as they don't conflict with derbies I'm going to be running.
Yeah, you got to have that party time too. You got to go absolutely. Have fun.
I spent too much time this winter not to.
So if someone wants to order parts, what's the best way for someone to order parts from you?
Get on Facebook, get on JM Derby Products, shoot me a message. My phone number is also on there. Text me. I'm guaranteed to get that. Some of your local guys have been buying a few parts. I seen one of them in my shop about 4 days ago, picking up some parts.
That's what we like.
Yeah. So, and I kind of touched on about how Mike is not a backyard builder, but he's also not too big to get small with you. So he's not too big for you to send him a text message, and Mike is going to be the one responding. So, and he's great about walking you through.
We lost you, Josh.
I'm sure Mike set up.
We lost you for a minute. You might want to repeat that.
Oh, I was just talking about how Mike is not too big to give out his phone number, so you can text him or you text a number, and it's actually going to be Micah on the other end walking you through how to set something up, or if you're having problems with the switch box, what wires go where. He builds great parts, and he really cares for the sport. So I think it's a good combination of not too backyard, but not too big either.
So what are these?
Those are aftermarket shocks. So that's kind of one of them gray areas, and I have a lot of people buy them. So when they don't let you run the all thread through your rear end, that's 2x2 by 1/4 inch tubing with a nut welded inside of them with 1 inch all thread. So then you run them aftermarket shocks and you run it through your package tray, and you can still suck down your rear end when that gray area comes to play.
Yeah. I was just curious because I see another use for those, but I'm not going to say it on here yet. But, so it looks like you've got wheel centers.
We do, we do wheel centers. Down there in the lower left-hand side, that's roof signs. We got full centers down on the bottom shelf, or on the middle shelf. Down there on the bottom shelf are hump plates. Over there on the right-hand side, bottom shelf, I do door strapping kits. So that will actually do all 4 doors and your trunk. And they're all cut pretty well to fit an old iron or a new style. So you just grab and weld. You don't have to cut them down yourself.
Oh, that's got to be awesome. I bet you sell them.
I went and vended a show New Year's Eve out at Cornhusker Chaos out in Nebraska, and we took 10 10 bundles, and I sold all 10 bundles in about 34 minutes. One guy seen it, bought one bundle, and he comes swarming in with a whole herd of people, and they bought them all up.
Oh, I'm sure.
So I must have
Everybody
been
in
too cheap.
everybody in Missouri hates doors, welding doors. My Snapchat all day long goes off
Oh
when it
yeah.
comes to doors. And that has to ease the process a little bit right there. So
Well,
you got a good
I got several guys building out of my shop, and the only reason they build out of this shop is because they don't like welding doors, and they know I like welding. So they'll build the whole car and then say, "Hey, it's your turn. Doors are ready."
oh great. You're gonna have all kinds of people. Hey, you want to weld some doors for me?
Where's
Mhm.
your shop? Where's your shop at?
Oh, it's in Eldon, Missouri.
You might get real busy come November.
Right. And don't bother me. I really do enjoy welding. I'm actually an internationally certified welder.
Yeah, and guys, before we came on here, I was telling them about the figure eight guys allowed to run radiator guards this year, and he was saying that he could make up some radiator guards for you guys. All you have to do is reach out to him, tell him what you want, tell him the specs on it, and he can get you set up. You could probably just meet him at one of our derby shows to pick up the parts. Save you a trip to Paris. Yeah, he does all kinds of stuff, and take us through so before we came on here, you were telling me of all the different things you were going to give away at each show. You have a list put together that you've talked it over with Jacob and Joshua about the items you plan on giving away. Just that we're trying to let these guys know what kind of shows and season that they're going to be in for with the street stock class that you guys are JM Derby Products is sponsoring. And man, you guys you got to take them through the list, because you started talking and I was writing down and I made it to the rear end brace. And I was kind of blown away by that. And then you just kept saying more and more stuff. And I was like, wow, it's going to be a really good year for the JM Derby Products street stock class for sure.
So what we're going to do is, when we partnered together, there's a little bit more behind the scenes, but when we partnered together, I said, I'm okay with sponsoring you, but I don't really want to give money. I want to give parts. I want to give something that people can actually use. So we kind of started putting together a list, and I started putting together a list, and I said, we had a phone call, I think a week ago, last weekend. And I said, I kind of want to go over what I want to give away. And I got through the second event, and he said, well, I think you're giving away too much. I'm like, oh, there's more to come. There's definitely more to come. So what we're going to do is June 10th at Eldon, we're going to give away a rear end brace. At Clinton, Missouri, July 15th, we're going to give away a bumper, which will probably be an Impala bumper, because we all know the dilemma on the bumper rules this year. So to save face with everybody, we're going to give one away that will work everywhere. Eldon, September 30th, we're going to give away a lower cradle. I will have an LS lower cradle with a front plate and pulley protector that you'll be able to pick whether you want a small block Chevy or a LS. So I'll have both available. So you're not stuck getting a part you have to sell. Leg of those are, it's October 14th. We're going to give away a switch box, a battery box. We're going to give away all your hood and trunk plates. We're going to give away 8 taco plates for your Patchett plates or your frame plates. And then what we're not 100% set on so far, but we're figuring out the fine details of that, is we're going to give away an overall points package We're going to give away a $1,700 complete lower or a complete full cradle. There you go, right there. And that will be your choice of an LS or a small block Chevy.
So, guys, everybody that's listening, this guy's giving out a ton of parts, just to give back to the Derby, and you guys support those who support you. That's what we've always said, and I mean, sounds like to me that this guy's there's no better guy to support right now than JM Derby products.
So when we got a minute, I want to kind of touch base on the backstory behind all of this.
Go ahead. Let's hear it.
Well, we all know and we've all heard about the debacle we have with rules this year. Whether you can or can't run certain rear ends or bumpers, pointy bumpers seem to be a huge topic this year around our local area. And I reached out to Joshua and I said, Josh, you gonna have a street stock this year? And he said, no. I said, man, it sucks because I really love to weld and I really like street stock. He says, yeah, but here's where things are going. I said, well, what do we have to do to get street stock? Well, he says, I don't know. Let me talk to Tommy. And he got back hold of me and he says, would you be interested in sponsoring if we did a couple street stock shows? I said, absolutely, but not money. I want to give away real prizes and real things. And through several phone calls and a lot of messages, this is kind of what we came up with. And the problem is, everybody local is going to the 3-day builds, the more stock, the bone stock, where all the national events are basing their main features around street stock, which just blows my mind. So that on the national side, they're running one build, but on the local side, they're going completely backwards of what everybody likes. And I couldn't convince anybody that that's what we needed around here. And finally, I got Joshua to agree that that's what we needed. And so I want to see that grow and I want to keep that build going locally. So for guys like me, and I know several of us, we're going to have to travel 2 hours minimum just to run what we like to run. So I'm hoping that with this partnership, we can make this class here to stay. And I'm trying to give the incentive to get people maybe out of their element a little bit and maybe add a couple plates or put a rear end brace on, or maybe buy a little bit better bumper and step up a class. And I think it's going to go well. I think it's going to go really well for you guys. So, and Steven has said this on Hard Nose several times, that you guys seen the disapproval with the rules this year, and between both of us, we have stepped up to the plate, and I think it's going to be rewarding. I really do, and I truly hope it is.
Yep, and I think you hit the nail right on the head. You see, Smash It, they're going with the street stock class instead of having a qualifying class. It's a street stock for their team show at Blizzard Bash this year, and I think you hit it right on the head. That it's that's where it's all seems like it's all going to me. I mean, it's great for all the local guys that are run, around here, because a lot of them, we see a lot of them going to Nebraska, a lot of them going to, they went to Spring X and all that, and you throw an extra couple plates on and you do this and that, to fix your car, and you're going to be right there anyway. So I think it's going to be exciting. We only hope.
Well,
I mean, I really hope it is.
What's crazy to me is, Whiskey City was a month and a half ago. there was 26 people that I would consider local that ran Whiskey City. Between just right over the river in Illinois and down by you guys, up to maybe the northeast Missouri area, there's 26 of us that ran it. But yet locally, they're taking the rules away from us. And if everybody would just open up their eyes, they would see that that's where it's at. I mean, really.
Yeah, we
Yeah. So for us, like we did have these conversations for sure, and all this it all really came to light whenever Sam Williams started announcing about his Gold Rush Nationals. So even that class is a street stock class, and we always talk about us at Lucky Sevens always talk about how we think we have the best drivers in the nation. And I come from way back from in the podcasting days of like the Crash Course broadcast. One of their big things was people would run their equipment all summer to kind of test their equipment, to get their builds right, to go on these national events. And kind of use it as a practice ground, the local stuff, and then go to national events using all the information that they gain running their shows. So we want to take that with our Lucky Sevens drivers, and what we hope is, they're able to test their equipment, to get these builds right, to get their setups right, and then they're able to take those setups that they ran all summer at Lucky Sevens, put them in a street stock national build, and go out there and bring some national hardware back to Central Missouri, or Northern Missouri. Just bring it back to this state.
Yeah, I heard there was a guy around Eldon, Missouri that kind of went and ran a Whiskey City show and brought home some hardware. Not in street stock, but still yet at Whiskey City.
Yeah.
But no, listen, here's the thing. You're absolutely right. So you take a lot of stock guys that are good drivers, who are good builders, but they don't have the confidence to go run a street stock show at a Spring X or a Whiskey City or a Pecatonica or a Metal Mayhem, because that's out of their element. Now that you've brought it, maybe some of your guys will run it and they'll say, well, I've only got 40 more hours in building this car, and I competed and I did pretty well. Now they're signing up for Border Wars. Now they're signing up for Whiskey City next year and Blizzard Bash this year. And they have that confidence because they know that their build holds up. And it works out for everybody.
Sure. Yeah, man, I just got to say thank you for everything that you're doing for the Derby world. I hope it starts to pay off for you. You're putting in a lot of time and effort into everything that you're building. I just was flipping through them pictures earlier, and the quality of the build, of each part. You can tell you've totally thought of all the dimensions that are going to go into whatever car it's going to go into. You take a lot of time and just the quality of product that you're pushing out. And I hope that all these people that listen on Spotify, I hope a lot of them get on here and look at the YouTube page and just to see, or the JM Derby Products Facebook page, and just to see, the products that you're putting out there. And hopefully you start, hopefully you get that recognition whenever someone is running a JM Derby Products rear end or whatever bracing or a pointy bumper or something. They're going to say, yep, that JM Derby Products pointy, that's what got me there, or something like that. And that's going to be cool to see.
Funny story. So that also works two different ways. I went to a show 2 weeks ago, last week, 2 weeks ago. I don't remember when. a week or two ago. And we showed up and only 8 cars showed up, 9 cars. And I pulled out on the track. I had a guy bring me a car that he wanted trashed. So I threw it together in 3 days and we took it down there. And I pulled out on the track and I thought, you know what? About 5 of these cars better not hit me because my parts are in them cars. Well, needless to say, I didn't make it far before they pinned me in the wall and destroyed me. But it's all good.
Yeah, we've heard that. We have a group that builds stuff for our figure 8 guys as well, and they've always said, man, our DVR parts are out there. You know, they're it's hard to build parts for your competitors, but at the same time, it brings everybody's level of competition up, and it makes everybody better in the long run. And that's what it's all about. And I'm sure those guys that were hitting you were smiling ear to ear, going, "Oh yeah, thanks, man."
Yeah. So a little bit about me personally. I don't get too mad often. It takes an awful lot to get me mad. So we pulled out on the track, and this guy that I know, matter of fact, sat with him at Whiskey City, went after me right off the bat. And until they finally got me on the wall and just annihilated me, we went at it the whole time. And we got, I got out, and Derby was over 5 minutes later, and walked out on the track, and I walked up to him right off the bat. I shook his hand. And he kind of shrugged his shoulders. He says, I pulled out on the track, and I thought, who's not going to get mad about me hitting him? He said, you're the only one I can think of. I'm like, well, shit, it's a Derby. I'm supposed to be hit, right? Hell yeah, let's get it on. I don't get too mad. Hell, it don't bother me a bit.
Yeah. And you said it right there. It's a Derby. And that's what we hope to see at all of our shows this year, is everybody getting out and shaking hands, because that's what Derbying's about. You go out there, you junk each other's stuff, and you smile about it, shake hands, and go back there and drink a Pepsi together. Who knows? But we, Micah, do you have anyone you want to say, you want to thank for getting you to where you're at today, or is this all blood, sweat, and tears, or do you have someone that kind of helped you get started with all this, or anyone you want to thank at home or anything like that?
Well, so when I started, I started with a local, to me at the time, group, Scott Thomas, Keith Dawson, and a guy by the name Alan Brown. That's who I started with, and that's who I run with, and we run a lot of shows together. I kind of gave you the story of my first Derby and how I got started. I'm one of them that out of the 5 of us, I think 3 of us stayed in it, and I'm the only one still doing it out of the newcomers for that Derby. So, I'm glad they could help me out and show me the ropes along the way. Derby Jesus himself, Mike Brown, over in Illinois, we ran together for a lot of years, and people say that he can build a car, allegedly, and he showed me a lot of tricks. And yeah, I'm glad I had the guidance with them. As of right now, it's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. That's for sure. It's reinventing the wheel. I got to learn it all over again. And I think I'm finally just about there.
Oh yeah. Mike Brown. I'm glad man, I loved watching that guy Derby back in the day. And man, he showed up, you were in for a treat. I loved it when he went out there and ran a Blizzard Bash, I think a couple of years, and got nationally known because, dang, that guy would go end to end, and I loved watching him Derby. One of my favorite Derbyers to watch was Mike Brown.
Absolutely. If you haven't seen the October 2009 Pleasant Hill Demo Derby, where he puts Colt Doyle and the Imperial on the wall and then backs 300 feet down the track and hits him again while he's on the wall, you're not into derbying, because I think everybody's seen that. And
Broke it
it's
in half,
funny,
right?
huh?
That's the one he broke it in half. He broke that car in half. Yeah.
Yeah. So we spent about 400 hours building that car he ran. That car is still around today. Last I heard, it was up in Iowa. Very, very, very hard car. But you know, it's funny. I have a couple people ask me here and there. They say, "What's the most memorable or the hardest hit you can ever remember?" I said, "Well, it was against my one and only teammate, Mike Brown." So we showed up at a kicker class derby, and it ended up only being 4 of us, and it was 2 old irons and 2 new styles. Me and Mike Brown were in the 2 old irons, and Keith Dawson and Alan Brown were in the new styles. And Mike got a good one that night on Alan and pushed him up on the wall right off the go, 3 seconds in, and there was nothing Alan could do about it. And you know, he just kind of gave the thumbs up and sat there and viewed it, watched the derby. And we got Keith out, and it come down to me and Mike. And I knew it was coming. And you can never prepare yourself for it, but he went to one end of the track. I said, well, I guess I got to go to the other end of the track. And we met in the middle, and he was running a 5-speed. He was probably in 4th gear when he hit me. And not only did he explode my front end, but he broke the cage in half. And when he broke my cage in half, it cut my fuel line off, cut the fitting off of my gas tank on my fuel line. And I started spraying fuel everywhere. And I was like, yeah, I think this is definitely over.
Hey, that's one way to avoid the hard hits, is meeting them in the middle, though.
Yep.
Yeah, those are the iconic shots that everyone remembers. It's those track, full track, one person back up to one end, the other person back up to the other, and just send it and meet in the middle. When we were growing up, every now and then we had the luxury of seeing that happen in our local shows, and man, you want to make a kid's night, something for them to talk about for the rest of the year, do that. People don't forget those shots.
Yeah, I'll tell you what though. I got my payback a couple of years later. He was a passenger in the car, but we went to a Vaz, and back in the day, this was probably 2007 maybe. They were allowing suicides at Vaz, Missouri. And 3 of us took a suicide, and 1 of us took a shocker over there. And kind of funny story, I made the feature, and one of his actual team members, Josh Hull, with Team WFO, and a lot of you guys probably know Josh Hull, didn't make the feature. I broke my gearbox in the heat, so I took his car to the feature, and I knew it was pretty damn hard. And I ended at one end of the track, and Moose, Chris Weatherby, ended at the other end of the track, and they got a fairly long track. And apparently we couldn't see each other, but they were going for the same car. We were both going for the same car, and Mike was riding with Moose. And that car got out of the way just in time, and I was mo-docking across there, and I ended up hitting Moose head on, and Mike come out on the hood. So I got my payback over that Pleasant Hill shot.
Oh, yeah. Joshua, you got any questions or anything you want to ask before we get them out of here on your?
Yeah.
We gotta get them out. Go ahead.
Yeah, we'll get you out of here with some rapid fire. But you were talking about, it was just whenever I was just getting on. I'm always running late for these things, but I was getting in the truck. You were talking about how when you first started, or when you first restarted, I guess, after that 10 years, you didn't really know what pressurizing a car was. And for the figure eight guys, it's kind of a newer sport where they're still trying to figure out, like some people are kind of trying to play around with pressurizing, but just give a short synopsis on what you mean by pressurizing.
So get your cage in, get your bumper welded on real nice and tight. And then what you're doing is you're putting some porta power against the front bumper. And you're moving the frame, you're stretching the frame out. And you get it where you want it. You kind of overbend it a little bit and let it kind of, deflate or come back. Put your motor and tranny in, and then you'll put the porta power back on it, and you'll kind of give it a little pressure on it, and then you'll mount your motor and your tranny, and you're kind of locking everything in. And it's not huge because a lot of people do it, but what I've learned is if you're not pressurizing it in, that might be 3 hits in a derby that you're losing out on to a car that is pressured in and pressured in correctly. And ultimately, in a battle, when you get on that one-on-one battle, that might be the difference between you moving on or him moving on. So there's a lot of things in the derby world now that are. Cody Brown always talks about geometry on a frame, and at first I thought, I think it's overrated. He's over exaggerating it, but he's absolutely right. There's a lot of geometry that's involved in a frame, and that's what you got to figure out. And it's hard. It's hard. It really is.
Yeah, and there's a lot of geometry on the shots you take as well. So it's building and driving. But the way I like to think about it is when you pressurize, you're doing more with less. So anyone can just throw plates on a car, and of course that's going to make it hard. But when a rule set maybe has less plates, but it gives, but then you pressurize something and it kind of takes place of a plate. So you're able to do more with less, and if the rules don't allow it, then you're still able to think around the rules.
Absolutely, but now let me give you the bad case scenario on that. Is we didn't pressurize when I got out of Derby. That wasn't a such thing. Tilting was just becoming a thing. I had to learn how to pressurize on my own. And the bad thing is, or the bad to the pressurizing is, do your homework, because I didn't. In 6 derbies, I lost 7 transmissions that cost me about $17,000 because I was over pressurizing them. And I'd make 3 hits and my transmission would explode. I'd pick up a 6-inch chunk of my tranny case out of my lap and know my night was over. So it was definitely a big learning curve, and there's a fine line there on how to do it. And the guys who have it down to a science, I will guarantee are in the top 5, top 3. That they're the winners of the Derby, the ones that have figured it out.
Yeah, and something I wanted to point out about that is you see these guys that are building cars in the same shops, and they're building to the way they're going to drive. They're going to have their plates in different spots. They're going to pressure their car different just because it's a trial and error type thing. You might not do it right the first 7 times or not. It's a learning curve for sure when it comes down to that. And one thing I will say is there's a lot of resources out there online to show you kind of how people do it. Just to kind of, if you're new to the sport and you're trying to figure out how to even do it, there's some videos there's a lot of good car builders that they're starting their own TikToks and stuff where you can go watch them. And some of our local guys have their own TikToks now as well, and they're doing their pressurizing and all that, and it's cool to see. We'll see how it works out.
There's definitely an art and a science to it. And one thing I will tell you is you are 100% absolutely right. So outside the taco boxes on the new style Ford, the taco plates in the boxes, plate placement is all about how you drive. Because I could do the identical plates as the next guy, and our cars will bend different because of driving styles. And you're absolutely right. It will take you running 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 cars to figure out where your car bends the way you drive.
Yeah, that's something that that I think a lot of people will still question whenever we go to bash, and we're discussing on like between our team, like, oh, where are you going to put plates? And we all, we all do our own thing. We all have different ideas or different theories on plate placement. But it's funny seeing the people that are outside going, man, this guy doesn't know what he's doing, or this guy, he's just going off on his own. But in reality, we all are experts in our own car and our own driving style. And I think that's one of the things that it just makes us different a little bit. So
yeah.
Sorry, I'm pulling up my my rapid fire questions here.
Hey, I'm gonna tell you something. Every week when I mow my yard, I got an 8-acre yard, so it takes me a lot of hours to mow. So I do a lot of Spotify podcasts. I always wait for these rapid fires, and I think, oh, I got that simple. But you watch, I'm not gonna have it like I think I do.
You won't, because he changes them every freaking time. He's got a basics, and then he adds in some. And I'm like, where'd that come from? It's like shot out of a freaking cannon.
Yep.
My God, hey, someone yell for.
Yeah. All right. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. So this is a rapid fire segment. It's just short answers, or you can expound on them if you want. But we'll get right into it. So, do you have any superstitions or like a pregame ritual that you do?
Absolutely not.
All right. What's your favorite part of the build?
The cage.
Got a brother that gets into cages. What's the thing you hate most about the build?
Definitely the rear ends.
All right. Are you on a team? Like a derby team?
No.
All right, what do you do for a living?
I do commercial construction.
All right, who's your biggest fan?
Probably. Oh, that's hard. I got two. Well, I'd say the wife and the kids for sure.
Okay. Who is your favorite driver?
My favorite driver. Shit, that's so hard. This is going to be my long answer. You can't take away from guys like Bobby Whitaker, Don Santel, Wes Whitaker back in the day. Very smart drivers. Terry Lyerly was a very smart driver. There's a guy up by Terry Lyerly, James Kitchell, very smart driver. And they're in the money all the time. But God, it's hard to watch an Alan Brown or a Dalen or a Cody Brown or a Mike Brown, basically anybody named Brown. They're fun to watch, and they're good at what they do.
All right, so who is it?
All the above.
You got to pick one. Gun to your head.
Alan Mike Brown.
All right.
Brown
What's
chicken,
your
brown cow.
yeah.
That's it.
What's your favorite car to see built?
What's my favorite car?
Yep.
The car on my right hand shoulder, Suicide Lincoln.
All right. In the super stock class, you could build. It's a team of new styles versus a team of old styles, all the same driving style. What is new styles going to win, or the old iron?
Head to head, even. Old iron takes it every day.
All right. Is there a favorite paint scheme that you've seen or that you've done?
Black and orange. I like black and orange.
All right. Describe your driving style in one word.
Turtle.
Turtle.
What did he say?
Said turtle. Are you not turtle enough for the Turtle Club?
I thought he said something else.
If you could change one thing about the sport, what would it be?
The drama.
You want more drama?
Less. And I will tell you this, it is getting better.
Yeah, I think so too. When and where was your best driving performance?
Pleasant Hill, Illinois.
Got a year on that?
I drove pretty good there most of the time.
All right. What's the most important part of the sport to you?
The brotherhood that you get out of it.
What separates winners and losers?
The ability to stay calm.
If you had one piece of advice for a rookie driver, what would it be?
Take your time. Have the right parts. And do your homework.
All right. If you could induct one driver into the Demolition Derby Hall of Fame, who's it going to be?
Yeah. Well, because you won't let me tell you 5 guys, I'm going to say Steven Adams.
All right. I like that one. Who's winning the Lucky 7 Superstock Championship?
Obviously me.
I like the confidence. All right. In the Superstock class, what's more important, driving or building?
Honestly, probably driving.
All right. I like that answer. We'll get you out of here on this. This is the last one. If we had individual walk-up music like they do in baseball, what song's playing when you pull in?
Oh, definitely Barbie Girl.
We can arrange that.
Jonathan's the announcer and the DJ. We'll cue that up.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God.
I'm gonna go around like before the Derby and just get everybody's intro music. I'm gonna have it on like a quick skip. We're gonna have every driver coming into their own song and
Can I bring a wig?
tape it to the back of the helmet.
There you go.
You have like a old Twisted Tea. You could have the pink car with the unicorn paint job or whatever he had that one year.
What was that? It was a pink car and a black unicorn, I think.
Yeah.
He's actually coming up to see me here in a couple days.
He's a good guy.
Yeah.
What number are you? I forgot to ask earlier in the podcast.
63X.
Do you have a story behind that?
I do. So the first derby we went to, Scott Thomas was 69X. When all of us signed up and kind of got in it, it was a draw the straw. We went from 61 to 71X for that derby, so we could kind of be our team. And I drew 63. There you have it.
It's stuck from there.
Stuck from there.
So you said you had the turtle with driving style. Is that what we could expect to see out of you in the future? Just you're just driving more than mad dogging out there, I'm guessing.
Well, have you ever watched a turtle race the hare?
Heard the story.
So okay,
Yeah,
so
I didn't watch the movie.
okay, what usually happens with me is I'm going to sit back in the corner and let the kamikaze drivers do their thing. And once they're gone, then I'm going to pick up my pace a little bit until I get hit how I think is wrong, and then the light switch goes off, and I usually end up breaking something because I lose all sight of what's going on.
All right.
So,
Yeah, we
so
look forward to
do you think the sport's in a good place right now? We talked about how you started early and then got out of it and got back in. Where do you think the sport's at now?
It's definitely improved. It's definitely going the right way. I'm going to give Sam Williams his credit. You got to give credit where credit's due. I think what he's doing this year is a game changer in this sport. We can have these shows like Gladiators is still, and we can have these little documentaries on TV, but to have a true national championship is something that nobody's ever dreamed of. And Sam has that vision, and I think that he is by himself going to change this sport. As soon as Gold Rush was announced and he did his live Facebook on Gold Rush, that's been all the talk since. And it's where we should have been 20, 30 years ago. But we're finally here, and I think you're going to see a huge change.
Yeah, I think he's already changed the Derby landscape with Blizzard Bash, and glad he's back into it and making those good changes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and he's made it a family thing too. He's got his kids involved and they're young, so that's something that I think the Ultimate Derby is gonna be around for years to come. It's not something that it's gonna phase out anytime soon.
So a few of you were at Blizzard Bash, but Sam, I don't remember where I heard this, but I heard Sam say, he got burnt out and he got out of it. But his two kids said, hey, what about us? Nicole and Chris are great people, and they're definitely going to take it over, and they're going to keep it going. They're doing a great job behind the scenes. Man, I think they're going to be here for another, a long time.
Yeah, we appreciate you for coming on. I think we've tried to touch on so many things. I could probably talk to you all night, but we got to try to keep these. I try to keep them around an hour and a half. And guys, June 10th, Eldon, Missouri. That's going to be the first show. We can't stress it enough. It's going to be a show that no one's going to want to miss. With the partnership of JM Derby Products with Lucky Sevens Promotions, it's going to be one for the ages, I think. I can't wait to see everybody out there, and all the figure eight guys that keep reaching out. I love all the Snapchats we're starting to see. We had our first race of the year, and we're starting to see everybody start to hone in on our next race, which is going to be
May
what is
13th.
that, May 13th. I don't want to say the wrong date on here. May 13th is coming up in New Bloomfield, Missouri, and special thanks to Corey Burton, who's got about 12 Power Wheels trophies for the youngsters that are going to be showing up and putting on a show with their Power Wheels. And I know a lot of local support coming in. I can't wait to see we've got some new drivers that have been reaching out to me. Never been on the track before, but they're going to give it their first go around and see what the points championship's all about with the figure eight series. And a lot of Derby guys you might see a few Derby guys out there that are going to be trying their hand at it. And it's going to be fun to watch.
Hey, you think I want to try out this figure eight thing? You think I can bring the suicide behind me and try out the figure eight race?
No,
Probably wouldn't be able to keep up.
that thing would get smoked. These little Cavaliers leave that thing in their dust.
Probably. That'd be my luck.
No, but guys, like Jonathan's been saying, like we always say, like support those that support you. Mike is like we're so blessed to have Micah, step up and come talk and just say, hey, I want to give back to your drivers. So support him any chance you get. I know a lot of the figure eight guys and a lot of the bone stock drivers, they're on the edge of buying parts or they're wanting to, but they're not sure where to start. Just reach out to Micah. Even if you want a product that he doesn't have, I'm sure if you talk him through it, what you're looking for, he's open to ideas of creating something new. So just reach out to him and support those that support you, please.
Yeah, and figure eight guys, watch about 30-minute mark and think about how you can incorporate some of that stuff on the shelf into your build. Thanks for coming on, Micah. We appreciate having you. We really do, and we're so happy that you're stepping up like you have, and we can't wait to see where this takes the Derby world for Central Missouri and beyond. We thank you for coming on the podcast. This is episode number 46 on the Crashed It podcast. See everybody next week. Don't forget, go out there and send it.